Are you guys ready?
Yes.
All right, welcome. My name is Annie. Some of you know me. I used to run culinary and events here. Now I'm the assistant general manager. Sylvia is our chef. It has been 5 long years since Tyler has joined us, and a lot has happened since then. So we're excited to tell you that he has now 44 retail locations. The newest, or one of the newest, is at 78th in Amsterdam for my Upper West Side friends.
Yeah.
And it's all about, simple, a simple base, and then what inventively you can add to it to make it unique and your own. So he's going to take us through a demo, and then we're going to read you guys a little bit for the signing. I want it to be fun and interactive, so ask any questions.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Woo. It's full. Okay, who's made ice cream before? This is good. You guys are good. Okay. Well, first of all, as you get into the book, the first thing I explain to anyone that's starting to make ice cream is start with a really good base recipe. The base of your ice cream it's the most boring, kind of the scientific part of it. Once you figure that out, you can have so much fun with flavors. So I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna move pretty quick to get through this so that we can get to the fun stuff, if that's okay. But I'll show you how to make our base, because it's so simple. And I'll talk a little bit about what goes into it, because there's some unique ingredients and some unique processes. So first of all, our standard ice cream, most of our ice creams are egg-free, and that's because eggs have a lot of flavor, and I'm not the biggest fan of egg flavor, and like egg yolk flavors in particular. So instead, what we're using is a little bit of xanthan gum, which is kind of a scary word, but it's actually a really easy to use ingredient. If anyone gets into like vegan baking or anything, this is a really common egg replacer. It's a type of starch, so it's pretty simple to use. And what we'll do is I just take my milk powder, sugar, and xanthan together, whisk it together so it's kind of just like pre-mixed, and then cook it into milk. When I'm cooking this, actually, do you mind cooking this like this? So I'm gonna cook this, and the reality is we're not actually trying to cook anything, so this isn't like, no thermometers needed. Actually, I strongly encourage you don't pull out your thermometer for this. The only thing we're looking for is to melt the sugar. That's it. It's not like, the nice thing about xanthan in particular compared to other ingredients or starches is you don't have to hit a specific temperature. So it'll start kind of like thickening a little bit and holding the texture of that milk just naturally. So all we are doing is really just like making a simple syrup out of milk. There's a couple of other ingredients in here that I use. So first of all, milk powder. It's common, like secretly almost every ice cream uses milk powder because it just gives you, we call it solids, it gives you a little bit more milk flavor in your ice cream. It also gives you a little bit better texture. And then also, I have 2 different types of sugars. So we use, in our kitchen, we use tapioca syrup and cane sugar. In the book, we recommend corn syrup if you would rather, if it's easier to get at home. But that invert sugar is what it's called. That sugar syrup actually gives you just a better kind of a fuller texture and kind of a longer, you create literally longer chains of sugar, so it gives you a better mouthfeel at the end of the day. This is easy, right? So if you want, my #1 recommendation, if you're like, I'm gonna get into ice cream making this summer, I'm gonna make ice cream like multiple times, I would recommend making a large pot of this, like make it ×4, ×5 of this, and then let it chill and put it in your freezer. And I know that sounds weird, it's very counterintuitive. You're gonna freeze your ice cream before you actually freeze your ice cream. But it's great. You can put them in little containers, kind of like this, or a deli container, like you get to-go soup in, and then come back to it. You just thaw it and then mash strawberries when you get fresh strawberries from the farmer's market, or melt chocolate into it if you get it from a local chocolate maker, things like that, and you've got ice cream ready to go. So this could go in our ice cream machine right now. We could call it sweet cream ice cream. It'd be really easy and really boring. There's 2 things I do here. First of all, so I added my heavy cream as well. I like to let this sit for at least 24 hours. What happens is everything kind of just marries together. I call it the salsa effect. Does anyone have salsa like the next day? You're like, damn, it's a lot better. Same thing happens with your ice cream mix. So if we let that sit, there's a lot of there's actually a lot of science we could talk about if you want, but there's a lot of science that happens, and all the flavors kind of relax and settle into each other, and you get a significantly better texture. Because my editor wanted to make sure that this was easy for anyone to use. He strongly recommended that we also allow you, if you want, to spin this right now, but I don't recommend it. So, this that I made earlier. For anyone that's wondering, I added cream at the very end, just because I'm like a huge advocate of not heating your cream. Basically, this has gone through a lot to like homogenize this product, which I know it's kind of a weird, scary word, but it's gone through. It's like been homogenized to the fats and all the milk or the liquids in that heavy cream have kind of become the same molecule size or particulate size. Once you heat it up, it takes it out of homogenization, which then creates like a slightly not as good of an ice cream. But this ice cream mix is so versatile. So literally, like our rule is you can add up to a cup of almost anything you want to this, and it will be delicious. And so you can take this and start flavoring it to taste, like whatever you want. I'm not joking. I would take, if you want, you have fresh, like I said, strawberries. Put a stick blender in here with fresh strawberries, you've got strawberry ice cream. If you want vanilla, pour vanilla in there, taste it until it tastes good, you've got vanilla ice cream. If you want to make pretzel flavored ice cream, which there's actually a recipe in here, you can put pretzels in here, let it steep for about 4 to 12 hours, strain them out, and your ice cream will taste like pretzels. So this is where it's really, really easy to make ice cream, and it's actually like kind of silly. So these are all of my secrets. I'm so sorry. You're gonna go to Salt Shop and be like, oh my god, of course, that's so simple. One of the chapters, in fact, we just kind of went crazy. So we talk a lot about cereal ice creams. We've got a whole series of cereal-based ice creams for a month in March. And really all it is you can grind up cereal to a powder and then stir it in here and you've got cereal milk ice cream. So put a quarter to a half cup of cereal powder in here, whatever cereal you want, and it's really delicious. For this ice cream, we're gonna have fun. So I'm gonna get this in the machine here. This is just a chocolate syrup that I made by melting chocolate with water, cocoa powder with water. There's a whole section in the book with kind of a cocoa powder buying guide if you all want to get nerdy with me. But it's pretty simple from here. We just cook that down with a little bit of sugar just to make sure it doesn't scorch. And if you wanted to use Hershey's chocolate syrup, I would not judge you. Like literally, this is like I said, it's really, really simple. In this case, again, we're using a really nice cocoa powder and just like cooking that down until it gets to, kind of cooks out the starchiness. There we go. I stir it in. I don't have to get it perfect either because the machine is going to do a lot of the work for me. And this is chocolate ice cream. Is that boring for anyone? Okay.
Any
I had
questions?
spoons here. Yeah. How are you guys feeling? Questions? Yes.
What percentage of fat do you usually recommend for the cocoa powder?
Honestly, not a huge difference between them because it's not adding a whole lot of fat at the end of the day to this recipe. So like the percentage of fat in the cocoa powder isn't significant. That being said, like typically when you're buying cocoa powders, the ones that have a higher residual fat, as a general rule, are higher quality. And there's a lot that goes into that. The reality is like a lot of cocoa powder that you get is a byproduct of like companies that want to get cocoa butter for typically like makeup. And so cocoa powder is a byproduct. A general rule is if cocoa powder has a lot of residual fat, typically that means they made the cocoa powder to be cocoa powder, not as a byproduct. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not like a hard and fast, but like that's my best answer. But for the ice cream itself, it won't really make any difference at all from like a texture perspective. Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, if I have the cheaper ice cream maker these days, what's the quality between that?
Yeah, I'll give you a 5-minute rundown on ice cream machines here. Yeah. So, any ice cream maker you use at home is going to be relatively the same, or like they all kind of do the same function. Ice cream makers, what they do is they freeze from the outside in. So in this case, we've got refrigeration, a coil of refrigeration on the outside that's freezing the ice cream around the cylinder, and then there's a blade that's spinning around and basically cutting off, as ice grows around the drum of the ice cream, or the ice cream maker, it'll scrape that off and fold it into the middle. And so if you have a machine where you pre-freeze the bowl, you are basically your refrigeration, instead of having refrigeration coils, you've got typically salt water or a solution in there that like pre-freezes, it's pre-charged, and it's just freezing around the inside. The quality difference between something like that and something like this machine is typically relatively insignificant. The problem is you have to make sure your ice cream mix is very, very cold, which mine wasn't, because I made mine before I got here. I know I told you it was 24 hours ago, but I lied. But I made mine when I got here like 2 hours ago, so it's still a little warm, and you can only use it once. And ideally, you pre-freeze your bowl 48 hours in advance. So like a lot of forethought, a lot of planning, a lot of, versus this machine, you can literally just use on the fly. So that's probably the biggest difference, and you can make multiple flavors. So there's 1 or 2 recipes where we actually blend the flavors, so you get like a 50-50 effect. There's another, in our first book, we have 5 flavors in one, so you spin 5 different ice creams over and over again. You can't do that on the pre-frozen bowl, unless you want to make a little bit over 5 days.
So the ice cream itself, the quality.
Relatively insignificant. Yeah, because it's all doing the same thing. And really the levels that you get, and so that's where if you're just like, I just want to try making ice cream, those Cuisinarts are actually really decent. And often you can even go to Goodwill and find them for like $5. So if you're like, I just want to try this, go look. There's not much that can break in those machines either. It's just one motor and like salt water. So there's not, there are like gradations, so if you get up to like the KitchenAid version, that's a little bit nicer because you can control the motor speed, and your motor is a KitchenAid, so you know that your motor's never going to break, things like that. But in that kind of pre-freeze and frozen bowl, it's pretty simple. This machine is incredible though, and the cool thing is on this machine you can control how fast that blade is spinning. You can control you can pre-chill it so that it moves a lot faster. So if you're trying to do a demo like me today, I don't have to wait for it to like cool down. Things like that. It's pretty incredible. We are secretly, am I allowed to say? We're secretly giving one away today. Breville.
It was at the end.
Okay, good. Okay, Breville sent us one to give to one lucky person. Yeah, it's this here. We just bought it downstairs at Whole Foods. It's a really simple ingredient. It's scary because it has an X in it. That's really bad branding on their part. I don't know why. It's typically made with like the cornstarch or potato starch. It's just fermented in a way that it becomes a little bit easier to use. As far as like as an egg replacer, it's one of the best ingredients, and easiest ingredients to use as an egg replacer. Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, you can kind of like so in like if you go like if you're in a high, like some of the higher end restaurants, you'll even like a lot of times we'll have this as like a pre-made slurry. Just like you would like a cornstarch slurry, and they'll often use that for like at EMP. They'll actually have a little bit of that and put a tablespoon in a sauce to finish it off, give it a little bit of gloss and thicken it a touch. So it's a really easy ingredient, far less scary than it sounds, and easy to find. Okay, I'm gonna make. This is where I'm gonna have a little bit more fun here. So. For me, the recipes in this book, the ice cream mix, hopefully you really saw, it's like really boring and easy. From here, like actually making food flavors and ingredients to go into your ice cream is where we have a lot of fun at Salt and Straw. I love the idea of textures and flavors and ingredients kind of mashed in there. So this is my favorite recipe from the book, and it's actually a really easy one. We're gonna make a homemade Reese's. And the cool thing about making Reese's homemade at home here by ourselves is that we're dialing in the ratios of kind of the butter and the fat and everything so that it stays really nice and gooey even when it's in the ice cream. So it's made to be frozen, which typically if you just buy something off the shelf, it's not made to be frozen. The other thing is we can start flavoring it. So in this case, we're gonna make a chili crisp peanut butter cup. And it's probably the easiest recipe here. So it's creamy peanut butter, some chili crisp. This is Fly by Jing, which is one of my favorites. Kind of stir that together. I'll add a little extra salt and powdered sugar. And powdered sugar is just gonna like kind of thicken it up for us, so it's more of a frosting texture. And then I pre-made my chocolate layers, so this is just, I literally melted chocolate on this Bain Marie before you all got here and then spread it out. So I didn't temper it or anything. I dropped out of culinary school before I learned how to temper chocolate. And you know what, in ice cream it doesn't matter. No one cares if it's tempered or not, because it's just gonna get frozen and it's delicious either way. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there we go.
So what kind of chocolate is the first layer?
We're using, this is it's a 61% chocolate chip from Ghirardelli. It's like one of my favorite kind of like entry level chocolates. Entry level, it's still like $13 a pound, but it's not $25 a pound, so it's great.
Tyler, are you picking about your cream?
Yeah, so we work with two dairies in particular, one in California and one in Oregon. So our Oregon dairy is actually really cool. They have Nancy's yogurt. I don't know if you know them. It's like really famous on the West Coast. But they, so when they're making their yogurt, they have a ton of leftover heavy cream. And so we make our ice cream out of that. It's really rare to like be able to know your farmer anymore because most dairies are co-ops. So it's surprisingly valuable to kind of be close to your dairies. Okay, can everyone see that? Was that okay?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'll explain what I did here. Okay, so I made my peanut butter filling and then I just sandwiched it. It's like, so I had my chocolate melted, hardened just in the fridge for about 45 minutes or so there while we were talking, and then just like spread it on top and closed it. I would slightly recommend, if I weren't doing a demo right now, I'd freeze this for another like half an hour just so it sets and it's not quite as messy. But that's just like, you know, we're just gonna get messy if that's okay. Let me see if I can, I'm gonna see if I can move this over so y'all can see down on this. Cover up my mess as well. So you can see, I don't know if anyone can see in the mirror. Okay, for those of you that can see in the mirror, basically like what's happening is the ice cream is freezing on the outside. You can kind of see it's starting to create a bit of a layer here around the outside, right around here. And you see how frosty that is. And then it's slowly just scraping it off. And the speed that it's running basically dictates how much air we're whipping into the ice cream. So I have this set really, really low. So it's actually moving quite slow. And you can actually, I could change the settings if I wanted. And you can literally hear it's literally the like RPM of the machine, the revolution that blade is spinning around for us. So we're just kind of like at the whim of this as it churns.
Tyler, I had a question. You know when you're adding in the powdered sugar?
Yeah.
What texture are you going for? Like, is it, how will
Oh.
you know when to stop adding?
Yeah, so when I was adding that peanut butter, or the powdered sugar and the peanut butter, basically it's like a loose frosting texture that we're going for. So I don't know if you could imagine, like this could have been frosting, I suppose. Right, does that make sense? And ultimately, there's a little bit of trial and error in this as you go. Like, obviously our recipes are designed to be very gooey and yummy, even at frozen, but at the end of the day, like, you have to kind of test the recipe, see how hard it freezes, and then try it again if you're trying to go off script. Cool. We're going here. I'm gonna prep one more thing for us. I'm also gonna layer in a peanut butter marshmallow fluff into our finished ice cream. Again, really, really simple here. So this is a pre-made marshmallow. You can make this. There's a recipe in the book. I love making marshmallow fluff. It's so simple. Or you can buy it from the store, which I actually did today because I'm traveling. And it's actually, you know, even that like the Jif, is that right? It's all kind of the same thing. It's all egg white based with a kind of sugar cooked down until it's kind of a candy texture, candy syrup. And then folding in peanut butter is really simple. It's just literally stirring peanut butter into marshmallow. But what's happening is here, we're actually because we're integrating that peanut butter, it's giving it a little bit of fat. So the marshmallow is actually going to stabilize a little bit more and stay kind of more distinct in the finished ice cream. There's a bit of a fat barrier in there, which is nice. So once this is ready, I'll add the peanut butter cups, I'll fold in the marshmallows, and we'll go from there. But this still has probably about 10 minutes, so we can talk from here. What questions do you have about ice cream? Vanilla. I love vanilla ice cream. And you'll read in the book why. I think vanilla is probably the most complicated flavor profile to ever exist. There's 220 flavor compounds in vanilla. It's so good. And it's gotten such a bad rap. And in reality, I think 70% of the ice creams sold in the US are vanilla-based ice creams. It's just that we forgot how good it is. Okay, good. The other thing is an ice cream connoisseur is if you ever go out and you want to taste someone else's ice cream, vanilla is the best place to start because it's a good baseline. Yeah, it's kind of you get a good foundation to understand how their butterfat's set up, what techniques they're using to churn the ice cream, etc. You know, so you can kind of get a feel for that.
How would you do it?
A peppermint? Yeah, you could start with that ice cream mix that I just started with, and then get peppermint oil.
Is that different than peppermint?
Yeah, there's two different. If you're going to go out and buy peppermint, you can get two different types of peppermint. You can either get peppermint extract, and that's what you'll find at most of the grocery stores, which is fine. They'll extract it in an alcohol base or versus peppermint oil. Peppermint oil is very, very different. It's way more expensive, but it's so much better. So peppermint oil, they actually press the oils out of the mint. And so it takes this much mint to get this much oil, but you can actually it tastes that way. There's so much more. And so I would add literally 2 drops of that mint oil to a pint of ice, or to 1 batch of this ice cream. If you want, you could use the same chocolate base that I just made and add that to there. So you have a chocolate mint. You could add, just the mint to the plain base to add, chocolate, mint chip, etc. Yeah, I'll go back here. Yeah. When your vanilla beans are bad? Oh no! Do you have vanilla beans going bad in the? Oh no! Yeah. So it's a complicated answer. I'd have to see. I would say it's probably unlikely your vanilla beans are bad. There's not much moisture left in them to go rancid necessarily. But if they get dried out to the point where they'll just lose a lot of their volatile flavor. So there's a whole like page with different vanilla beans, and like you'll see they grade vanilla beans based on the grade, or grade A versus extract grade, and so you can see what the quality is. If you make an extract out of it, honestly, even if you've got like really crappy beans and they've been sitting, it probably will create a pretty decent extract. The one thing with vanilla extract, like I've had so many people have made me homemade vanilla extract. You use like 20 times more vanilla beans to make an extract than you ever dream of. Like if you're making a homemade one, you basically want to pack like your vanilla beans tight and then just barely cover them with an alcohol solution, and then let that sit for like 6 months. Versus like most people put like one stem in there into like a big bottle of alcohol, and they're like, this is vanilla extract. You're like, no, it's not even. That ratio is actually called a fold. So when you buy vanilla, you can buy a single fold or double fold, and that's literally like one fold is 28.2 grams of beans to 1 gallon of liquor or alcohol. Sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, at Salt and Straw? When I like it? No, so we do a lot of testing. We're writing new recipes every single day. I've got a test kitchen in Portland, so if you ever see us on Instagram, that's where I'm usually based. And so we're writing recipes about 6 to 7 months in advance. I'm constantly working on new recipes. We launch a new menu every single month, so it's the first Friday of every month that we'll launch that menu, and so we're trying to stay ahead. We're just finishing our November menu right now, for example, but trying to create flavors that like really create a unique experience for our customer. Like we want someone to come in and be like, just feel like they can kind of go on a journey tasting through all of them, even if sometimes that's like scary, a scary journey, like edible bugs in October, or turkey in November. Pastrami. Yeah.
What's a sneak preview of your November menu?
We're trying to get something really, we have a lot of cranberry fields in Oregon, so we're trying to get something really bright and fresh for using our local cranberries. Is that okay?
Bogs.
Yeah. Bogs. Cranberry bogs, thank you.
Maybe with pumpkin?
Yes. We'll have a pumpkin pie with coffee in it. Little, yeah.
Right.
Spike it with a little, yeah. We're getting really close. Thanks, guys, for stalling with me.
Say, has there ever been a flavor you just given up on, or do you feel like you're able to tune it until you get it where you want?
Yeah, there's a handful of flavors that we've given up on at Salt and Straw. Probably, we tried to do a flavor with the Oregon Crab Commission using Dungeness crab, which I don't know if anyone's had Dungies. So good. I grew up on that. I know those. Really bad ice cream. Just really do not. Someone tries to put shellfish, other than sea urchin. Sea urchin is actually kind of fun, but like shellfish in ice cream is not a good idea.
We have lobster ice cream.
Was it good? Lobster ice cream?
I mean, you wouldn't have ate a whole cone.
So no.
You have to try.
Okay. I'll take that. Yeah.
So they,
We tried to use caviar in ice cream recently, and I've never been able to get it to work. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. It's just like, it doesn't freeze really very well.
You can't add it as a topping.
Toppings don't count. Yeah, toppings, yeah. I think I like to challenge, like, can you get it all in one scoop?
I think the base matters too. I think they use a butter pecan base for the lobster.
A butter pecan lobster ice cream? Okay. You're winning me over.
And they load a lot of butter in with
Yeah.
the lobster.
Yeah. So, well, yes. Yeah, it's this exact recipe that you guys are eating. Hopefully she didn't. Yeah. I think it's awesome. Is that a good answer? Is Dubai chocolate too chewy for chewy?
There is peanut butter in this.
It's what we're demoing.
I don't know. No, it's not too chewy. I don't think so. No, I just yeah, I haven't tried it yet as a recipe. I wouldn't be. It's a great combination. Here, I'll go. Yeah.
Practical question. When you're making the ice cream, how do you get the mixes into it? We struggle every time.
Oh. Yeah, so that's a good, I'll kind of lead into what our next steps are going to be because I'll start moving a little fast once this freezes. As this is hardening, basically what we're looking for, we're going to harden it to, or we're freezing it to like a soft serve texture. So you can see it's still a little loose, but it's slow. It's going to start kind of escalating from here. That soft serve texture, technically, if I had a thermometer, it would be about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that is not scoopable ice cream, just to be clear. You could eat that right there and it would be very delicious, and it's probably the best the ice cream will ever be because it only starts degrading from there. But we want to get this into a freezer as quick as possible if we want to harden it, is the technical term, if we want to harden it to scoopable texture. So what I will do is I'll add in the mix-ins. In this case, there's two different types of mix-ins. Technically, there's like two different categories. There's either a mix-in or a variegate. Those are the technical terms in the ice cream industry. A variegate is like a sauce. This would be considered a variegate. That's something we want to basically like layer in rather than stir. And then a mix-in is like these peanut butter cups, where we actually want a little bit of mashing. We want to kind of lightly stir them in. Depending on how you want to do that, you can either add that in as you're packing your pint of ice cream, or you can add it into this machine and let that blade kind of churn it in. So cookies and cream is a classic one where you let the blades churn it, right? Where you add your like Oreo cookies, you lightly mash them, put it in, and let it kind of sit there and churn for another minute or so. Let the blades kind of crush up those cookies and cream. Or even a cupcake, you do the same with a cupcake, let it churn for an extra minute because you let that blade just chop it up and kind of get that like soggy cupcake texture. Versus like these, I'm gonna be a little bit more delicate with because we work so hard. I work so hard to like get that layering effect, and I want to show off that peanut butter and chocolate or chocolate peanut butter and chocolate layer. So in this case, I'll probably actually add this in as I'm building the pint of ice cream. So in that case, I'll put a little bit of ice cream, a little bit of my marshmallow fluff, a little bit of the chunks, and kind of build it by hand. And you can literally pluck those mix-ins in there till it looks good, and then put more ice cream up as you build. This is the cup that we're gonna fill in, and this works really great. Basically, the material that you store your ice cream in is very, very important. In fact, I judged an episode of Chopped once, and someone tried to extract all their ice cream into a glass bowl, and I saw it, I was like, this is horrible, because you need something like, ironically, in many cases, the cheaper and thinner, flimsier it is, the better it is to make ice cream with. The reason that is because we want something that cold of your freezer can literally like infuse into your ice cream as fast as possible. Again, the faster we can cool this down to ideally negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're going from 25 to negative 20, the better the quality is. And so I've got a $2 million freezer at my kitchen. You probably don't. So putting it in a very thin material and putting it in your freezer as quick as possible is the only way to kind of like get it to freeze. And then probably trying to avoid opening your freezer would be a good thing as well. So all of our pints are actually in paper. That's the common in the industry, that thin paperboard. That's for a reason. It's because it freezes really quickly, but literally the cold air just penetrates straight through that paper material. At home, my top recommendation and what we do in our test kitchen is we just use deli containers, like what you would use, you get like soup to go in. Or if you want to be really fancy, this is obviously a great option. And then as I go, again, kind of getting ahead, I also like to freeze it and flip it upside down. This is like old school. I learned this from an ice cream maker who had been making ice cream for 52 years. And he taught me this, so not many people know this. If you flip it upside down and freeze your pint upside down, what happens is the ice cream will fall to the top, and you'll get a tiny bit of air pocket right here. No one will ever know, because by then they're so happy they've been eating ice cream for so long. They're like, oh. But what's great is then you get an airtight seal on your ice cream. And so you basically push all the air out from the lid, you make sure, and you basically, your ice cream will glue itself to this lid, so when you open it up, you get a really fresh seal. That way there's no moisture that gets into your ice cream. There's no, like, if you've got, like, dare I say, onions in your freezer, like that, you know, like, you have to imagine, your ice cream is butter, it's frozen butter. And just like if you put an open stick of butter in your fridge next to an onion, your butter will taste like onion. Your ice cream will taste like whatever's in the freezer, unless you seal it off so it's airtight. So this is a really cool trick to freeze it upside down. Oh my gosh, we're really, really close. When you freeze your ice cream, again, getting it as cold as fast as possible helps. And then from there, when you're tempering it, trying to like only temper a little bit at a time. Every time you pull it out of your freezer, it abuses the ice cream just a little bit more. There's a really common, so there's two different types of abuse that happens to ice cream when you get it at home. The most common one that everyone expects or knows about is when you get frost on top of your ice cream. That is one type of abuse, and it sucks, but it's way more avoidable than the other type that is actually, in my opinion, even worse. When your ice cream actually melts and refreezes. So those are two different things. The ice crystals on top of your ice cream is actually all the condensation from your air, moisture in the air, latching itself onto the top of the ice cream and freezing into the ice crystals. Versus, what we actually call temperature abuse of your ice cream is more so the ice cream melting and then refreezing. So what happens, this is ice cream nerdiness, a lot. We're going deep here, guys, so sorry. We're basically fostering, we're creating these ice crystals over and over again. So as this blade spins, you get a little bit of ice crystal, it gets cut off and then folded back in the middle. So we're fostering this infinite, delicious, decadent ratio of ice crystals. As soon as we pull it out of this machine, it's going to start melting, and so you lose a few of those ice crystals, and then they refreeze, and you never gain more ice crystals, just get bigger ice crystals. And slowly, the more you let melt and then refreeze, the more you're going to get these long chains of ice crystals that will slowly become more and more perceptible on your taste buds. That's also why it's good to spin it kind of just the right speed. Again, we're spinning at this. If we go a lot slower, we're building too long of ice crystals. If we go a lot faster, you're building too small of ice crystals, which is just as bad because those will melt even faster. So that's why if you're liquid nitrogen made ice cream, which is fun to see, actually it has a really bad shelf life because they're too fine of ice crystals to actually hold in the freezer. It'll actually inherently melt and refreeze really poorly in your at-home freezer.
So
okay.
When you manufacture that on big scale, is it just the same thing but bigger, or?
Yeah, exactly. My machine's a lot nicer than that. This is I think $300. My machine's $800,000. So for point of reference, but it's doing exactly the same thing. So the biggest difference in ours is our machine freezes our ice cream under pressure because things freeze at warmer temperatures at higher pressures. Sorry, I'm trying to do the math there. So that's the biggest one, and then we pump air back in so we can control how much air actually comes in versus being open air. If that makes sense. Yeah. Which is a huge difference. It helps so much. Especially with certain fats and certain proteins really like to soak in a lot of air, and so if we're working with coconut cream, we can actually make it denser and creamier than you could ever do at home. That's a very abbreviated answer. Okay, so we're packing. This is for you. Packing the ice cream. First of all, the texture is really, really important. The technical term here is Wendy's frosty texture. And that's for a reason. I could let this spin a lot denser, or a lot colder if I wanted, but slowly it's just gonna soak in more and more air. And so you're getting again, we want to keep this ice cream really, really dense. We actually set all of our machines at gelato settings. I want the same amount of air as gelato, which gelato has about typically almost half the amount of air as a typical ice cream. So we go with gelato air, but then ice cream level butter fats, which ice cream typically has twice as much fat. So it's like as much fat and as little air as possible. Makes for the most expensive ice cream, but it's also the most delicious. So one of the ways to control that is just stopping it a little bit early. And it's a little soupy. That's okay. Again, we're gonna get it in the freezer really quickly. This is our candies, and you can literally just again, I would have frozen these typically, but these are gonna get scooped into, so who cares what they look like? And in fact, the messier, the better, kind of. And then this is our marshmallow, and you can kind of smear it in there. And we'll just build this layer by layer.
If we were doing this at home, would we want it thicker than that? Or is that
If your freezer is pretty cold, I would go this thin. No thinner. If you're like reach-in freezer, like your home freezer is, you're like, ugh, you can go a little harder for sure. But again, the thinner you go, the better. Typically, the lower air that you're getting in. So you do want to find that right ratio of like it being frozen enough, but also not too much air.
What happens if there's alcohol? Does that change the freezing?
Yeah, we've got a whole chapter on alcohol, to be honest, because it changes it drastically. So the best way to explain alcohol in ice cream is to like talk about what alcohol is. Like alcohol is one of the most delicious forms of antifreeze in ice cream. So, yeah, exactly. So your three antifreezes in pastry are sugar, salt, and alcohol. And for point of reference, salt has like 6.5 times the stronger antifreeze effect than salt. It's the best way to say it. It's like the non-technical term. If no one's a scientist, don't judge me how I say that. Alcohol, I think, has like 3.5. And so the best way to do it would be to replace some of your sugar if you really want to be careful with it, or just use a really small amount. I'm making a mess here. That's okay with everyone. Yeah, totally. I'm sorry. Totally. I just kind of accidentally assumed. Yeah, I'm building this pint, and first of all, I'm making a mess with this peanut butter candy. But every layer, like I think I did probably 6 layers here. And basically you're just building the layers that you want to see in your finished ice cream. And so what we do is I'll add a little bit of ice cream and then add in whatever mix-ins I want in there. So if this was a cookie, like a snickerdoodle cookie or a brownie or Oreo cookie or et cetera, I just like plop that in there. And then I add just a big smear of my variegate or sauce. I like my sauces to be giant pools, to be honest. That's like a very stylistically salt and straws to get those big pooling effects. And so I'll drizzle in a big pool of it and then let the ice cream kind of push it down. So we'll do it like layer by layer, just literally build it like you want to see it, because it's going to kind of set in place like this. And again, this was probably, I don't know if anyone's counting, 6 layers maybe in this size. And then flip it upside down, like I was saying earlier, and get this to your freezer as quick as possible, which we don't even have a freezer here, so I'm just gonna act like this is going to a freezer. But again, that ice cream will kind of sink down in here. You'll get a small air gap, but it's actually for the best because it's purged out of there. And this is your ice cream. Did that make sense? Okay. There's a few pictures in there that hopefully kind of help depict that a little bit better. You could probably go downstairs and steal them from the soup station. Yeah, no, not joking. We used to only, yeah. Or Amazon or somewhere, or buy one of these because this works. Yeah. we in our kitchen we use the plastic deli containers. I actually prefer those because you can see the layers better, and it's reusable. Yeah.
Sometimes I see recipes where people add like stabilizers. Do you recommend those? Or?
Xanthan is technically a stabilizer. Yeah, so Xanthan is our stabilizer. And it's an egg replacer, so eggs are also a stabilizer. So depending on how you want to do it. The one trick with stabilizers, so like stabilizers got a really bad rap in the industry because some of the cheap dairies were starting to use stabilizers to thicken cream so it looked like it was higher fat. So they were literally like faking fat levels in cream. And that's bullshit. Like that's not okay. Like, and so it all got a bad rap in the dairy industry. But in reality, like, just using a little bit actually goes a long way in this ice cream. It helps hold the flavors together. Basically, you're like binding the water so it doesn't create like more. It creates more even structures of ice. So I'm a huge advocate for at least using some type of stabilizer. And Xanthan just so happens to be the most simple to use, stable version. I think you'd see cornstarch in a lot of at-home recipes for ice cream. Not a fan, because you can't really freeze cornstarch. Cornstarch breaks down in frozen applications. And Xanthan actually like hydrates or it activates cold. So we could whisk that into like or blend it with a stick blender in a cold serum or solution and get a really good stabilizing effect. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's our ice cream. That's good?
I would eat this just by itself.
Yeah, I know we should.
Thank you guys so much. This is where it gets a little wonky because we're going to move him to the side.